In 2017, Jailbreak wasn't about trading, and it wasn't about values, and it definitely was not about owning the rarest car in the game. Jailbreak was simple. You spawned in prison, escaped with your friends, robbed banks, jewelry stores, and trains, and then used the cash you earned to buy better vehicles. The goal wasn't to become a millionaire trader. The goal was to become rich through gameplay. Every vehicle felt like an achievement when players bought the Bugatti or the Roadster or the Volt bike. It meant they had spent hours grinding robberies to earn enough cash. For years this system worked. The more you played, the more money you earned. The more money you earned, the better vehicles you could buy. Jailbreak became one of Roblox's biggest games, regularly pulling in hundreds of thousands of players. Its formula was simple, but it worked. But over time, something started to happen. Limited vehicles began appearing. Cars like the Torpedo, Arachnid, Beam Hybrid were only available for a short period before disappearing forever. At the time, nobody knew how valuable these cars would eventually become. Most players simply saw them as another car to add to their collection. But in 2022, everything changed, because on June 10th, 2022, Batimo released one of the biggest updates in Jailbreak history: trading. For the first time in Jailbreak's history, players could trade vehicles with one another. At first, trading seemed like a great addition. Players who missed limited time vehicles finally had a way to get them, while long-term players could show off collections they'd built over the years. But there was one major detail that would completely reshape the Jailbreak economy. Cash couldn't be traded. Since money was off the table, players needed something else to use as currency, and most immediately, limited vehicles became the new form of money. Cars like the Torpedo and Arachnid weren't just vehicles anymore, they were investments. The rarer a vehicle was, the more valuable it became. And because these vehicles could never be obtained again, demand exploded. Almost overnight, Jailbreak transformed from a game about robberies and heists into a massive economy with cars. Entire communities were created around tracking vehicle values. Websites like JB Values emerged, giving players a way to estimate what their vehicles are worth. For the first time, players weren't asking how much a car cost, they were asking how much it was worth. The trading scene grew at an incredible pace. Players spent hours negotiating deals, flipping vehicles, and trying to build the most valuable inventory possible. For many players, trading became more exciting than actually playing Jailbreak. Rare vehicles kept increasing in value, inventories grew larger, and the economy appeared stronger than ever. But underneath the surface, there was a problem that would eventually send the entire economy into chaos. For a while, Jailbreak's economy seemed unstoppable. Rare vehicles were worth more than ever, traders were making huge profits, and the market was growing every single day. But behind the scenes, a serious problem was beginning to emerge. Exploiters have discovered duplication glitches. These glitches allowed players to create copies of rare vehicles that were never supposed to exist. And when more copies of a rare item suddenly appears, that item isn't rare anymore. At first, most players didn't realize what was happening. But as more duplicated vehicles entered the market, traders began noticing something wrong. Rare cars that were supposed to be nearly impossible to find were suddenly showing up everywhere. The economy was being flooded with vehicles that had no business existing. And just like in the real world, when supply increases too quickly, value starts to disappear. The market becomes unstable, prices become harder to predict, and trust begins to collapse. Because there was now a new question behind every trade. Was this vehicle legitimate? And while traders were busy fighting over values, another problem was quietly growing. The game itself was changing. Players weren't robbing banks, they weren't escaping prison, they were spending their time trading. Jailbreak was no longer just a cops and robbers game. It had become an economy that was slowly taking over everything else. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like if you liked the video.